Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nonsikelelo Ntima, and I'll be presenting a lesson on how to be an idol history teacher. So I will open my lesson with a quote from Theodore Roosevelt as follows. It reads as follows: "The more you know about the past, the better prepared you are for the future." So for my second slide, I will be discussing the characteristics of an idol history teacher, which means being a good colleague. What is a good colleague? So a good colleague is someone who is very approachable. If you are a colleague, you are not only a colleague to your fellow teachers, but you are also a colleague to the security guard at the gate. You are a good colleague to a cleaning lady or the person at the tuck shop. So if you are a good colleague, you are actually someone who's approachable to everyone who is inside the premises of the school, including the principal as well, who is your superior. So it is very important to be a good colleague, especially when you are a student teacher. Why? Because if you, for an example, if you are intending of applying for a job at the same school where you are doing your practicals, it is very important, therefore, to build a very good relationship with people around you so that you can be the first to be considered when a post comes up. So being someone who is very approachable and representable, who leaves a good impression, that gives you an advantage even over people who are more qualified than you. But because of the kind of person that you are, it gives you an advantage for the school to actually hire you. Also, having a good relationship with students makes your teaching journey a cruise. Being a well-informed teacher. So one of the things that Hidden says in his book is that to be a well-informed teacher in your classroom, you have to know the 6 things. First, you have to do it yourself, present your lessons in class, and then observe it. You have to observe from a senior teacher how they present a certain lesson. After that, you seek advice about a certain topic or about feedback on your presentation skills and so forth. And then also attend teaching sessions, workshop seminars, and formal seminars. And then also the most important part, which is reading. You have to be a reader teacher. You have to be well informed. There is the internet, and the internet has everything that we need. So it is very important to be a well informed teacher. And then lastly, talking about it. He emphasizes that it's important to talk about your subject topic, whether to students or to fellow teachers. That will improve your knowledge on a certain topic and also make you a very good teacher. So those are part of the things that you can do to be a well-informed teacher. And then being unbiased, that is also very important. On my left hand side, or it's my right hand side, I just have this beautiful picture of mine. It says there is more to history than knowing dates and time. Oh yes, there is more to history than knowing dates and time. So, if you are a good history teacher, you have to be someone who is well informed and unbiased in terms of religion, social background, race, and etc. But I will discuss more about that on my next slide. So, what makes a good history teacher? That is teacher-focused objectives. So these objectives, I took them also on the book Learning to Teach History in the Secondary School. That is by Terry Hayden and Alison Stephan. So he mentions a few of those objectives that you need to make a good history lesson. So that is teacher-focused objectives, the pupils, assessment objectives, classroom management, resources, and history objectives. And there is more, but I just decided to put this. So teacher focused objectives, mainly he says that that is where you have to think of how is my subject's knowledge on this topic. Am I well informed about this topic to actually present it to my people? Is this practicable? Can I carry out this plan? Will this extend my teaching repertoire? Is it a high or low energy session? So you have to think about those things before presenting your lesson. So if you know that your subject topic is not actually a high energy session, then you're going to find strategies of making people interested in that topic. And then following is the people. So here it's the students. So you're focusing on your students now when you're thinking about planning your lesson. You're like, is this going to elicit the people's attention, interest, and motivation? Is it going to motivate them? Like, what is their prior knowledge and understanding of this topic? Those are the things that you have to have in your mind when you're going to present a lesson to your pupils. And then we're moving on to assessment objectives. So in assessment objectives, he says, what would I do differently next time? What worked and what didn't? What should I go on to teach next? How will I check what they have learned? So you're just thinking about all those things before you are preparing your lesson on what should I teach next, how will I check what they have learned, that they have understood as well, what worked and what didn't. Did my strategy work? Did my strategy not work the last time I taught? So how am I going to structure my lesson right now? What would I do differently this time? And then we move on to classroom management. So when you're talking about the classroom management, yeah, I'm sure you're thinking the type of seating that is in the class, like the setup, how are students set up in the class? Are they too close to each other? Are they separated from each other? Are they like 30 or more students? Are there few students in my class? So looking at the setup of your classroom also makes you understand the type of strategies that you can use to actually make your learners understand the lesson. But according to Hayden and Stefan, they are saying that you have to now you are deciding whether to pair these students as groups or give them individual activities, or just making debates on a certain topic as well, starting, finishing off, changing between activities. That is all you think about. And then we move on to resources. I think the resources is the very important and the main part. So he says that what resources are there? What resources do you have in a school? So you can be in a public school and or in a private school. So the setting between a private school and a public school is very different. People who are in a private school, we obviously know that they are more resourced than in public schools. So you have to look at what resources do I have to actually present my lesson. What might what what might I develop or procure? Which to use, how to use them. So it's very important to also know how to use the technological resources when you are a history teacher, because yes, we are in the fourth industrial revolution, so it is very important for us to know how to use those resources. Everything is on the internet right now. You can read books, it's very important to read books, but everything is also on the internet, so we have to be well equipped as history teachers. And then history objectives is when you give people activities and then you track their progression. Okay, the most important things to be mindful of, that is religion, culture, race, and citizenship. I'm going to discuss this in my following slide. Religion. I have a beautiful picture right there. So with religion, it's very important to be firm and knowledgeable with the topic that you are going to present. You see, most history teachers, maybe some can be Christian. You see here, I just have a picture of Jesus in the Bible with his 12 disciples. A history teacher can be a Christian, but also they have to make sure that when they are presenting their lesson, they are not trying to instill their Christian religion on children, because maybe that child has a different religion than what you have. So it's very important to not be biased and just stick on the true story, the fact, and do not add your own ideologies. And then culture as well. People are coming from different cultures. Just because you understand history in a certain way, don't try to instill that in students. Allow them to comment on certain topics so that it is just not one-sided, because history is not a one-sided story. And then race as well. Race is a very sensitive topic when you're speaking about history, because a lot of things happened in history that many races can actually feel sensitive about. So when you are teaching history, you have to be sensitive about race and not try to be biased about it. For an example, if I am a black teacher and I'm speaking about apartheid, then I shouldn't personalize apartheid and try to feel people of the opposite color to feel like now they are the villains, but I should be neutral as possible and just tell history as it is. And then lastly, citizenship. We have people from different countries like Swaziland, Lesotho, and maybe even overseas in Mozambique as well, who are studying in South Africa. So when you are presenting a lesson or you are speaking about history, you have to be mindful of your presentation skills and not try to be biased, discriminative, or xenophobic about anything in your topics. Just try to be neutral as possible, but also stating the facts. And then on my slide 9, I am doing reflection on the interview transcripts that we have been given. One of the first questions that triggered me is that what makes an ideal history teacher? So the interviewer that answered it right for me is interviewer 4, who said you have to have passion for history and a good storyteller. I believe that you cannot be a good storyteller if you do not have the passion for history. So for you to be a good storyteller, you have to have the passion for history. I always say that history is like storytelling, because you are telling a story of events that happened. So you have to have passion so that your students can actually feel motivated to move on to your next class. And then another question said, what should be included in a history classroom? So interviewer one said updated and relative information. Yes, I would agree with that. Because why? Because it is very important to display updated information in your class. For an example, here in South Africa we had two flags, one before democracy and one after democracy. Since the one before democracy didn't support Rainbow Nation, you cannot display such a flag in your class. So you are going to display the new flag. So that is why it is important to update relative and informative information so that you can instill the right values in your students. So the other question was like, what qualities are needed to teach at an FET level? Interviewer 3 said excellent content knowledge. Exactly, you have to have excellent content knowledge, because students actually ask quite complex questions, so you cannot underestimate students. You have to have excellent content knowledge, which means that you have to do your research well, and when you go to class you have to be very prepared to answer questions and give your best to that lesson and to your students. So here are my references, and thank you all for your attention.